It's 8 minutes past 3. It's time for Women of 1325 here on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Kiki Morty, and today on Women of 1325 we'll be discussing women's political participation in Nigeria. The United Nations, through various resolutions, recognizes the disparate impact that violent conflict has on women. It highlights the fact that generally women have been left out of peace processes, reconstruction and stabilization efforts. They recognize the imperative for the full and equal participation of women at all levels, ranging from conflict prevention to post-conflict resolution, peace and security. These resolutions, amongst a host of others, frame the women, peace and security agenda. Women of 1325 is a summary. In summary, is the radio program that hopes to attain female gender inclusivity, protection and equality. On that note, today on Women of 1325, we'll be discussing women's political participation in Nigeria. And joining me on the program today is Joy Onyeso, the country director, WILPF Nigeria, and the national coordinator, WSRN. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. And since Nigerians' independence in 1960, Nigerian women have continued to struggle to be renowned within all professions. They've excelled in various fields, ranging from engineering, medicine, accountancy, pharmacy, law, journalism, banking, etc. Yet the level of participation in mainstream politics is not felt quite yet. Why do we have such low participation of women in Nigerian politics overall? That's what we're going to be discussing today. You can join us over the phone by calling us up on 07000 917 917 or on 090 256 You can also reach me via text on WhatsApp on 070-317-56537. And of course, we are on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at WFM917. Engage with our posts on Women of 1325. Use the hashtag Women of 1325. And of course, tweet at us at WFM917. Of course, the phone lines are open. Let's get talking. Let's discuss women's political participation. And let's not forget that we have a guest joining us by phone, talking about the person of Joy Onyeso, country director, WILPF Nigeria, and national coordinator, WSRN. So it's I'm going to start with the question: why would you say that there is a place of fear, or would you say rather, because there is a school of thought that believe that there is a place of fear in women joining politics and in Nigeria. Do you agree?
I would say it's not a straightforward answer to say yes or no.
Okay.
Rather, I would want us to look at some background information as to why we don't even have a lot of women in mainstream politics. Let's also not forget that politics is a game of power. It speaks to accessibility of resources and exercising a lot of responsibility in terms of decision making and all that. And when we talk about access to power, exercising power, we now need to look at our environment. So we can't rule out the place of the patriarchy in Nigeria. And patriarchy is a system. It doesn't refer to individual persons, but rather to the system. And when you have a system, it means that there are certain enabling factors or enablers that ensure that certain people are locked out or excluded from that system. And what it does is that for those group of persons or population that have been excluded, there is a certain narrative.
Okay.
Now the narrative is that women belong to the kitchen, to the domestic space. And so when we believe that narrative, women now coming out into mainstream politics meets a resistance. So it's not so much as the fear of women being in that space, but because of certain narratives that have been told over and over again, and we now believe those narratives.
All right. All right, and then there are factors. There are factors that are affecting women participation in politics, some of which you have outlined. But what other factors? What roles? What factors rather have been affecting women's participation, withstanding the fact that we are in a patriarchal society?
Mm-hmm. Is a multi-pronged factors that have affected women's participation in mainstream politics, and we would have to look at the economic factor as well. With the political system we run in Nigeria is heavily monetized. And then the question is, how many women in Nigeria have that financial muscle to compete with the men?
Right.
And until we get to change that, it will be difficult to have a tangible number of women in mainstream politics. Then we also would look at the culture and tradition, which also alludes to the patriarchal system. The culture and tradition is such that we have traditional roles for women. So women are seen more in domestic spaces. So the narrative of a woman is a caregiver, a nurturer, a mother. So any woman that wants to break out of that mold meets a backlash, meets a resistance. And then you also look at the portrayal of leadership in Nigeria. It's mainly masculine. Even when you look at adverts, something as simple as adverts in Nigeria, if you watch 10 adverts, 9 of those adverts are portraying men in leadership roles and women in domestic space. And when we watch these things, we listen to these discussions. You go to the church, it's the same thing. You go to the mosque, it's the same thing. You go to the economic sector, it's the same thing. So everywhere you go to, you see this narration playing out. And so invariably we tend to believe it, and that now builds a barrier for women to go into mainstream politics. And then there's this thing about what we've internalized as women ourselves, because we're not even left out of it.
Yes. The social conditioning affects both men and women.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been socially conditioned to believe that there are certain things we shouldn't do. And that's why you will see mothers tell their daughters, don't you know you're a woman? You have to sit well. You shouldn't aspire for certain things. It's as bad as that. We try to curtail and mold young girls into certain things and certain ways so that they don't have aspirations. And then you hear words like you're being too ambitious. But when it comes for a man, it is perfect. It is okay.
All right. 16 minutes past 3. This is Women of 1325, and today we are talking about women's political participation in Nigeria. And of course, feel free to call us up and be a part of the conversation. You can call 07000 917 917 or 090-256-25455. And of course, you can send us a text or a WhatsApp message to 070-317 56537. You can engage with our tweets. They're ongoing right now under the hashtag Women of 1325. Just follow us on Twitter at WFM917 and follow the thread. And yes, we have spoken on what the role patriarchal structures have to play in limiting the number of women in politics, the exclusion politics that we have going on here in Nigeria. And let's not forget that we have our guest joining us by phone, Joy Onyeso, Country Director, WILPF Nigeria, and also National Coordinator, WSRN. All right, so what roles would you say political parties have in supporting women's engagement in politics?
Political parties still remain the primary vehicles for mainstream political participation in Nigeria, especially for elective positions. And so they play a whole lot of role in granting access to individuals that want to contest for elections. So individuals also include women. I want to draw us into what happened during the last party primaries for the 2019 elections. It was at that party primaries that a lot of women lost out in the struggle. And if you look at the major parties, PDP, APC, APGA, for some of these parties, they don't even have any women in any of the national offices in the state at the state level. So if you look at those in the House of Representatives across the 36 states, we don't even have up to 20 women. Meaning that for a particular state, we don't even have one woman. So they play a lot of role. And the truth is, when political parties come out to contest, they come out to win. So the argument they put out is that women are not strong enough candidates to match the oppositions and all that. But I think it goes beyond that. It still comes back to all the factors we discussed. So if the politics weren't heavily monetized as it is, the field would be a level playing field. You have a lot of people who have interest in politics, aspire, and then, get into the race. But it's so heavily monetized, and the political parties are playing a lot of exclusion politics. So there's also a narrative about women in politics. And if we want to change the narration, we need to also engage heavily and deeply within the political parties.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, Nigeria is Africa's most populous country, and every other place on the continent significantly, gains when they have more inclusion of women in politics and leadership. For example, 4 of the world's top 10 countries in terms of women political representation in parliament can be found in sub-Saharan Africa: Rwanda, Seychelles, Senegal, and South Africa. Yet Nigeria, with our huge population and huge potential, we're nowhere in this category. Why do you think that is so?
You've captured it aptly. Research has shown us that there is a direct correlation between the status of women in a country and then the development in that country. Yes. Exactly. And so because Nigeria hasn't developed that strong political will to ensure that women are also at the front post of running for elections and being included in major decision-making processes in Nigeria. That is why we have what we have right now. And if you look at other African countries, there is no other country that plays the kind of politics we play in Nigeria. Ours is dynamic, ours is very organic, and is very unique. And that is why there's a lot of struggle, there is a lot of money going into it. And once you bring in that equation of money and access to resources, you start excluding women. Because the truth is that we have very little percentage of women in the strong financial sectors. And so we also need to start changing that narrative.
All right. And still looking at corruption and role corruption has to play. We can all agree that our political system is riddled with corruption, and it's become, almost impossible for women to participate freely in politics. Can we say that corruption has a direct effect with women's participation?
It has a strong direct effect on the low participation of women in mainstream politics. When you look, some parties don't even do primaries. They do nomination, and then automatically the women are out of it. Even in putting together the party structure, in having their delegates and all whatnot, women are relegated. We have the role of the women leader, which is a very strong position if we have women who have a strong understanding or grounded of understanding of how they can use that office into wielding a lot of influence. We have the experience of Iyom Josephine Anene. We see what she did. She worked across political parties. So she has given us such a legacy and have laid the foundation for other women leaders if they want to change the narrative. So corruption is so embedded in the political process in Nigeria that if we don't deal with corruption, we can't have an increased number of women in politics. But at the same time, corruption is both a consequences and a cause. It's both a consequences and a cause of the absolute power we see in the political party.
So if we don't have enough women, we also may not be able to completely stamp out corruption.
Beautiful. That is it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. 22 minutes past 3. Women of 1325 is live on your radio. We're speaking on women's political participation in Nigeria. Be a part of the conversation by calling us up on 07000 917 917 or on 090 256 There's a beautiful thread on Twitter right now. It's more or less a summary of the conversation that we've been having, because we want to take this conversation, off and go. We want to take it off air and online as much as possible. So join the conversation. Use the hashtag Women of 1325. Hello, good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling me from?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is
Johnson, welcome to the program. Go ahead and make a contribution.
Actually, when you're talking about women in politics, I will not mention any names on radio due to some reasons. And see, some women, they will have opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There is a particular one I close to very well. And as at that time that we are talking about, this person can boast for at least 200 million.
200 million what?
Naira.
Okay.
How many women under our own even umbrella family that can benefit from that money? See, Nigeria is not yet. We are not get there where we're going to say, okay, let's.
Why do you think we haven't gotten there? What exactly is stopping us?
What is stopping us right now? That is really giving me concern every day, every second. Every home that every one of us come from, there is a fault there.
From the home?
From the home.
Okay. How so?
That is, ma?
Yeah, how so? How so?
Okay, for example, there is a woman that has political ambition. She's okay. She has a passion. But he got married to a man that when he go out, when he come back, he's slapped, he's beaten. Because of that, she needs to drop the career. And this is the person I know very well. She can talk, she has the power to go here, but she doesn't have a good home. That's why she dropped the politics.
All right.
Such a woman, even not because of what she's passing through, she may be one of the best that can give us something good in society.
Change.
That is one.
Okay.
There are some young ladies when we are in school, then when we are doing SUG or whatsoever, blah blah. They join us as a lady at university level.
Okay.
You know, they are very strong. They can talk, they can fight, they can face lecturer. They are not this type that follow boys up and down, because they are very strong ladies. But let me tell you, I know one of them, because a lecturer wanted to date her and she said no. This lady repeats 500 level 2 times. Where's the lady today? She later come and leave SUG, become an SU girl, like that, those things. That's how that one ended.
Okay.
So these are the things disturbing ladies.
Obstacles.
There's even one big issue now that I noticed in Nigerian politics that is disturbing our women. Do you know, during the campaign, when the campaign is going on, when primary is going on like that, some of the women, they don't believe in this issue of godfatherism or all these things like that. They may just have their vision, but they don't have the power to go and stay under one political godfather. But they have the potential. So who is going to choose them to go and represent the community? Is it not the political leader? That's how they kill their dream. It has nothing to do with corruption. The only thing I think that women can do now, because I'm thinking something in my mind, I don't know if it's going to work. Something is still telling me that if you have a woman as a Senate president, what's going to happen in Nigeria? If you have a woman as a vice president, what's going to happen? Let's try all these posts. So how is it going to be possible for women now? If somebody should stand up before the election, somebody should stand up and tell us, okay, by 20-something, I want to come out for so. Put on the trend. Let's be following you before that time. Let people know you.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So a couple of things that I got out of that phone call is, the obstacles that exist for women, they're quite there. But do you agree with what he said? With women not being ready, or the society not being ready for women in leadership, more women in political. You know what? Before you answer that, let's take another call so you answer both of them together. Hello, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling me from?
My name is Solomon. I'm calling from Maine.
All right, Solomon, go ahead and make your contribution real quick.
Yeah, I quite agree with the last caller, but what I want to say is that if women want to thrive in politics in Nigeria, they should form a political party.
A women-only political party.
Yes. 50% of the women team up, contribute their money and form a particular party. They can be able to feature in the local government, in the government, and in the presidential, even in the Senate and others. They will be able to see that most of the seats will be taken over by women.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Sounds like a profound thing. So tell me, what are your thoughts on both calls?
Okay, the first caller made very valid points, and he reinforced what we've been discussing in terms of the barriers or obstacles to women's political participation, so I wouldn't want to repeat that.
Okay.
He made very valid points from the domestic space to the public space. He reinforced what we've been talking about in terms of the patriarchal and traditional roles being ascribed to women. But I really want to look into what he talked about when he said that corruption has got nothing to do with
it.
Women's exclusion, and also when he said women refuse to submit to godfathers. Now, that's first of all, we need to even interrogate what the godfathers do with the women. We had a survey in a research in February with 20 women across 20 political parties that contested for the party primary. And what came out was very reinforcing of what we have been talking about.
Okay.
Now, irrespective of the academic level of the woman, she's still subjected to violence within the political party. So even with the system of the godfather, what did they do? Most times they would ask for sexual relations with the women, which they won't ask from the men. So when you see women running away from that, it's because they know the experiences of violence they get within the political party.
Okay.
And I think we're also living in denial. We don't want to accept the reality of what women are facing. And so that is why most times we say this woman, that woman. How many women, what percentage of the examples we're giving represents the women population? Now, don't we also have men that have money, that have clout, that have also refused to run for political leadership? So that even speaks to the problem we have. When each time the discussion comes up, they are pointing to one woman or the other woman. What is the percentage of Nigerian women population? That is just one woman. Everyone is having one incident of just one woman. Is it representative of the women population, especially the women population that are interested in mainstream politics? And for the second caller that talked about political parties, with the Constitution doesn't allow a particular sector to have a party. So it has to be our political party system is meant to be inclusive. So you need to have both men and women within the political party system before you're registered. But notwithstanding, it's also a good idea to see if we could have political parties that would buy into the ideology of having
50%.
Of promoting women, of having 50% of the women. And I would always say we shouldn't subject women to a higher standard than we're willing to subject men to. And that is what happens within the mainstream political system. Women are asked to prove themselves time and time again, whereas men are not asked to. A man can wake up today and say, I want to run for governorship, I want to run for presidential election. No one will ask him, how many years experience do you have? But once a woman stands up, they will tell you, what have you done? Who are you?
Start from the bottom.
Exactly, start from the bottom. Go and start from councillorship. But if it's a man that has his money, that has his constituency, no one will ask him that same question. So we need to be mindful of the different rules of engagement we have for both men and women in mainstream politics.
All right, thank you. Hello, good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Ade from Agarujayi.
Ade, go ahead and make your contributions.
I can't say I'm politically inclined, but from my perspective, and it's something I've often said, that if we as women are...
Hello? Oh dear, I think we lost that call. But keep your calls coming in 07000 917 917 or 090 256 254 0800-222-1055. Let's keep this conversation going. We're discussing women's political participation in Nigeria with Joy Oyenso, Country Director, WILPF. That's the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And of course, also the okay, I think we lost that call. Also, the National Coordinator for WSRN, that is Women's Situation Room Nigeria. Hello, good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, Kiki. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, this is from Charity Road, Yokoba Bulega.
All right, 60s. Welcome to the program.
Well, I don't have much to say. I just want to say you are doing a great job. That I'm enjoying the program here in Abulega.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello. All right, thank you so much for that. 26 minutes to 4. This is Women of 1325. All right, so okay, we'll go back to the phone lines one more time. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Your name and where you're calling from, please.
This is Joshua from Maitu.
All right, Joshua, go ahead and make your contributions.
What I want to say is, for this women issue in politics, nobody will wake up one day and on a platter of gold offer a woman a particular position in government just because she's a woman. So they have to strive for it, because the kingdom of God is suffering violence, and the violence is taken by force. And again, another again I want to say about this, there is this saying in politics that the decisive means of politics is violence, and anybody who fails to acknowledge that is a political infant. So because of that violence in it scares a lot of women out of it. And then there is this bad name attached, like from where I'm coming from. Any woman that is so much deeply rooted into politics, they see her as a prostitute. That she goes out to sleep with men. In short, the way they treat her in the village is something not to talk about.
Okay.
And again, our National Assembly, I think, even though I never liked that slogan of take a bow and go, but for the fact that they did it to so many of the, in fact, all the women, I think the kind of encouragement, they encouraged them. They didn't try to scrutinize them up and down, they just allowed them to take a bow and go. Even though I never supported that take a bow of a thing.
Okay. So what exactly are you saying? Are you saying that it's harder, because your first statement is we can't just hand it to women, and then subsequently you're saying that you're implying that it's harder for women to get a chance. So which one is it, and what is the way to address it?
That's what I'm saying. For our statement here, we need a lot of political orientation.
Okay.
To say we make the ground a level ground for both man and woman to compete favorably.
All right.
The way we do our own politics here is very difficult for women to come up.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, you've heard what the last two callers have had to say concerning women's political participation. I want us to explore that space where we draw a line between, inclusion and then tokenism. Right? Because it has come up. The last caller, spoke about the bow and go and all that. He also mentioned women wouldn't be handed things over, wouldn't be handed positions just because they're women. Well, so while we don't want tokenism, we also would like inclusion, would like equitable solutions to make sure that we get more women in politics. So how would you draw that line?
Yeah, what we're saying here is we're not saying that we should just give positions to women because they are women. No.
Okay.
What we are saying is, can we have a level playing field for both men and women?
Okay.
Can we have equal opportunity for both men and women? Can we not demand a higher standard of responsibility or capacity from a woman than would require from a man? And I definitely do not like this idea of just take it down. Honestly, for me, I think it's part of the tokenism that was exhibited by the National Assembly to have asked the women to take it down, because that was an opportunity to showcase the capacity of those women. If they had allowed women if they had engaged the women in substantial national issues, they would have seen that women have that capacity. It would have changed some of the narrative. It would have portrayed women in a better light as leaders. But having engaged the men in such elongated discussions or debate on the national floor and denying women that opportunity just to take a bow, it's just reinforcing that patriarchal and stereotypical roles we give to women. Oh, because a woman just take a bow and go, no problem, and people applaud. No, that's not.
More importantly, we fail to hear the voices of the women were, would I say, muffled?
Silent.
Fail to hear from them.
Yes.
Okay.
That actually silenced the voices of those women at the floor of the Senate. So that shouldn't have been encouraged.
All right, thank you so much. We just have 21 minutes to 4. Keep your conversations going on Twitter at WFM917. Use the hashtag Women of 1325. We are discussing women's political participation in Nigeria. And joining us on the phone, we have Joy Onyenso, Country Director, WILPF Nigeria, and National Coordinator, WSRN. So gender equality has been arguably a major factor in the low participation of women in politics in Nigeria. And the gender imbalance, can it be eradicated, and how?
Well, we first of all need to look at because there's a lot of misconception about gender equality. Most people begin to, when you talk about gender equality, they say, oh, we want to ascribe so much value to women than to men. No. What it simply speaks to is about having equal opportunities and respecting or valuing contributions of both men and women, while also acknowledging that there are certain differences between both sex. So understanding that we shouldn't value the work done by one particular gender more than the other one. Just ensuring that there is both genders have opportunity to display their capacity as well. And it can be eradicated. And one of the ways we can eradicate it is by looking at the social norms and practices we have and raising awareness and sensitization on such issues. This particular program we're having right now is part of the way to change the mindset, because I strongly believe in dialogue. Once we're having this program, people are calling in, we're exchanging ideas and perspectives, and a lot of things and mindsets will be shifted. We're going to have a lot of paradigm shifts by the end of the program. So it's a continuous thing. It's not a one-step process. It's a change that is gradual. It's a change that we need to be very intentional about what kind of information we put out. And what kind of feedback we want to get.
All right. So, Joy, I want to take us back to that core. There were a couple of things that stood out. A number of things, actually. The stereotype that women face, which is not in a vacuum. Any position or any field where women have decided to speak up, there will be stereotypes. There would be, tags for women who have decided to amplify their own voices. Now, this one coming in now in politics, saying women from where he is from. I can't quite remember the name of the last caller, Joshua, I believe. Said from where he is from, women who engage in politics are seen as prostitutes. It has been a while since I heard that, to be honest. And I started to feel like we're suddenly understanding why a lot of these things come up. But do you think that these stereotypes, they are harmful? Of course, I can't ask, are they harmful? They are harmful. But how deep do they go?
They run very deep. We have the space. The space is divided into private space and public space. And like I had said much earlier, most of us, the narrative is that women belong to the private space. So whether it be in mainstream politics or in the private sector at high leadership level, once the woman decides to shatter the glass ceiling and get into that space, she needs to be thick-skinned and prepared for all the name-calling and shaming that she would experience. So even when it's not in mainstream politics, as in a high-level leadership, the narrative would be that she has slept with all the bosses. She slept her way to the top. She's not, everything she gets is through being wayward. But in terms of calling women prostitutes in the political space, I think we have really moved a long way from where we are here. We have gone past that a long way. But we still have a lot of work to do, because it now is not as common as it used to be to call a woman a prostitute because she's in the mainstream political space. It still does exist. It still does happen, but the incidence rate is not as high as it used to be because of the awareness that has been going on. So I think we've moved away from that prostitution labeling. More of now, it's more of the capacity. Her capacity is being questioned. We see women that the thing is that we don't see women as leaders. We think women are too emotional, and I tell people emotion belongs to both men and women. It's not synonymous to any particular gender. We have men that are emotional. We have women that are emotional. You see what you want to see. So we've all been socialized in different ways, and that impacts on our capacity. Capacity and skills is not hinged on a particular sex or gender. It's an individual thing, and the skills you build up over time.
All right. So the benefits and the importance, most importantly, the importance of women participation in politics that people don't seem to grasp. Can you share with us and even add to that evidence that suggests that women, when elected into political positions, make a difference for girls, women, and everyone in general? But the legislation on girls and women are usually highly impacted.
No, I would want to give this analogy. I always like to use this analogy. And I would ask, have you ever seen a bird fly on one wing? And the answer is no. Every bird flies on two wings. And for me, the two wings represent men and women. Now, it represents the fact that we cannot have sustainable peace and development without having men and women as equal partners pushing this agenda forward. When you remove half of your population from the agenda, from the table, it means that you lose the capacity, you lose that resources hinged on that agenda. So everything is loop-sided. It's ab initio from the foundation is built to fail. Now, I get the initial instance of Iyom Dosuna. Nene, there are so many other women like that.
Yes.
There are so many women in the political space. We had Dame Vejie Tiaba. We have a lot of women that are not visible in the public space nationally, but doing a lot even at the community level. I don't want us to segregate into just the ones we see, because the danger is a lot of women are doing so many things that are positive on the local level, and we are not seeing them. They are unseen. I call them our unseen heroes. But like I said, if we don't have men and women, contributing, we will have a lopsided development. And Nigeria is a case in point. I don't even know what even typifies this other than the way Nigeria is moving on auto motion now. Because we have deliberately refused to have inclusive political participation. That's what we get now, is what we see. You mentioned countries like Rwanda, Senegal. We see what is happening in those countries. Yes. Why? Because they have equal participation of men and women in the political system. So what else other than this would even typify what we are talking about concretely?
All right. And now there is this school of thought that politics is a dirty game, and this narrative has discouraged women from participating in it. Any thoughts on this?
Politics is a very deep game in Nigeria. It's very murky, in the sense that there's a lot of corrupt practices going on there. We've mentioned the money politics. When you have undue influence as a result of heavy monetization of the process, this is what you get. It will be murky, and that is why we don't have enough women. One of the reasons. And then when you have so much money going on in the system, it just follows that there will be a lot of violence, because people become aggressive. But when you're putting in so much money, it now becomes a desperate measure for you. You just need to win, and that is what has also impacted the elected officials performing their duties. When they put in so much money, they want to recoup the money as much as possible. Okay. So it's like eating your cake and having it. You can't eat your cake and have it. So much expectation by the system in the political system that a lot of money goes into it, and then we still expect them to go there and do what they're supposed to do. Now there's also the mindset in how we've conditioned ourselves. When your brother or your uncle is there is this automatic thinking that it is now a national cake. So as individuals, we also have a responsibility into what is happening right now. When you call people for service, we don't have that spirit of service. We have very few percentage of people that are willing to serve without expecting anything in return. And so our politics is so income based.
Okay.
It is something that people expect to get a lot of rewards from. So that's part of the challenge and why we can't have enough women there. So the system needs to change. We need to have a total overhauling of the system.
All right. And we have spoken about everything that is wrong with the system, and every different moving parts that have come together to create this system that we currently are in. How can we now increase women's participation, and not just women's representation, rather qualitative participation in different countries, focusing on Nigeria? So we want more women represented. We want more women's issues represented, not necessarily by women. We would want to know that the legislation has passed a bill that includes women. Doesn't mean that it's a woman that passed the bill, but it cares about women. How do we ensure this?
The first thing we need to have is to enact a legislation that concretizes women's participation. So if you look at Senegal, you look at Rwanda, you look at some of the countries where you have more women in mainstream politics, what has happened? They enacted legislation. So if we don't have that, we'll see the running around in circles. So we need to have that legislation of political participation that says, you know what, give 35% to women, give 40, give 50, whatever percentage, but something above 35% to women. We can't settle for anything less than 35%. So let's have this percentage reserved for women, and then we can start discussion from there. And I also do see every challenge as an opportunity. So the legislation, one, very key, it is critical to what we're discussing. But every other thing that is seen as a challenge is also an opportunity for us to, because then we are deeply engaging, we're having these discussions, so every challenge is also an opportunity to expand the space. But first of all, and very key, is having that legislation. We can't go far without that legislation.
All right, we're going to take our last contribution for the day. 07000 917 917. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. All right, I think we lost that call. If you can, before we wrap up, squeeze in your comments. Call us up on 07000 917 917 or on 09025625455. Let's not forget the conversation is ongoing on Twitter currently. Use the hashtag Women of 1325. Follow at WFM917 to be a part of the discussion. We've been speaking on women's political participation in Nigeria right here on Women of 1325. And of course, joining me in that conversation, we've had Joy Onyesa, Country Director, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, also National Coordinator, Women's Situation Room Nigeria. We're going to take our last we lost that one again contribution. All right, so yes, thank you so much for highlighting how we can decisively increase women's participation. Now I want to ask, should there be any laws or legislation for increasing the participation of women in cabinet or in political parties?
Definitely. When we have the legislation we seek, is not just for political parties. It's everything in political positions, whether appointed or elective. We need, within the political parties, there needs to be legislation that regularizes or what regulates what the percentage of women they have a party is supposed to put forward. If we don't do that, what we have now is what we will get, and it might even get worse down the line, because once they see nothing is done, no punitive measures, they keep doing it. So they got away with it this time around. What will stop them? Legislation is what will stop them. So both for cabinet and for the political parties, we need to have that in place.
All right. Thank you so much. We just have 8 minutes until 4 p.m. So I'm just going to have to ask to give you a final word on the conversation we've had today.
Yeah, what I would like us to go home away with today is men and women can do it. We are complementary partners in this drive for a better, peaceful Nigeria. Women alone cannot do it. Men alone cannot do it. But together, when we harness our resources and our skills, we can make this country a great country. Let us all join hands in pushing forward for an inclusive, democratic space.
All right, thank you. And the status quo that women are suited for domestic activities is quite the destructive one. And that attitude has, reduced our development over the years. Though Nigerian women, for the majority of the number, are not adequately represented in political and even administrative positions, there is that need for us to engender Nigeria by dismantling the existing socio-economic status quo that hinders or obstructs women participation. Also, women domestication ought to be discouraged, while equal representation of all genders and social classes be encouraged. It's against this backdrop that the women of 1325 have come to provide a framework for the protection of women and inclusion of gender perspective in peace-building activities. Women of 1325 is sponsored by WANEP, the West African Network for Peace-Building, with support from the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD. Women in Peace-Building Network, WIPNET. Women of 1325 holds every Tuesday on Women Radio 91.7 by 3 p.m. And I'd like to say a big thank you to my producers, Kels Okezie, Blessing Kali, and Anthony Dameda. My name is Kiki Mordi. Make it a date, same time next week on Women Radio 91.7. Good evening.
WFM 91.7.